Well, hello there and welcome to the show. Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan, of course, the wonderful presenter of the Political Asylum. He used to be my on-screen television husband back when we had those fancy studios downstairs and I didn't have to sit in here all by myself for 3 hours. Kev, thank you so much for your company. I'm going to start with this story because this has just come in. 7 men convicted of the sexual exploitation of 2 teenage girls in Rochdale. Guess what? 7 Asian men, the usual suspects. I mean, these incidents took place between 2001 and 2006. One wonders why it's taken so long to get to court. But these poor young girls from the age of 13 from troubled backgrounds were groomed, forced to have sex with a number of men in filthy flats, on rancid mattresses, in cars, car parks, alleyways and disused warehouses. They were treated like animals. Yet again, another story showing quite the crisis that we're in.
Yeah, and everybody knows that this is still going on. That, if you like, is a kind of historical conviction dating back. But these grooming gangs, rape gangs, let's call them what they are still operating all over the country. Ask any police officer, ask any social worker, ask most local politicians. They know this is still going on. If you look at what's happening in Ballymena, this is the basis of a building social unrest. The sexual crimes by migrants, men of foreign origin, these are probably the culprits in this case, will of course be Muslim men of Pakistani origin. So the committing of sex crimes by foreign migrants who came here is causing the kind of social unrest that is getting extremely worrying. As you said to me last night, Alex, this country, in terms of this, could be on the edge of a precipice.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. When you look at the pattern of the uprisings that are taking place around Western Europe now, Southport, again, that was rioting in the UK. Ballymena might be Northern Ireland, but that is the United Kingdom. Clearly, what happened with those televised trials wasn't enough to deter or suppress the would-be rioters over in Ballymena. And you have to wonder, one more story like this that comes out and whether or not the blue touch paper will be lit again in the United Kingdom. And then if that happens, how many Brits, having seen what happened last time, just throw caution to the wind and say, I don't care anymore. They're not listening. They're not doing anything. They're gaslighting us. They're lying to us. They're prejudicing our own trials and throwing people in prison as political prisoners. That the UK public by this point are extremely desperate because the one thing the government doesn't seem to do is listen to them and deal with their concerns. We've now got idiot Rachel Reeves saying she's got no clue where these migrants are going to go when she shuts down all the hotels as promised, if she does shut down hotels as promised. Reports in Guido Fawkes suggesting the government were just going to buy hotels. You couldn't make it up. The government, of course, refuting that. But I think, and I want to know what you think, when these young men are moved out of hotels, which is bad enough, it costs the taxpayer an arm and a leg, but instead are put into housing, probably in poor neighbourhoods, with nothing much to do, 5 young men twiddling their fingers day in, day out, I don't reckon they're going to be taking university degrees. These people are ripe for being plucked off to be used in the black market. These are young men with their own urges, coming from cultures where women are normally dressed like ghosts, can't even show their ankles, and then they come to the land of Bonnie Blue and it's a toxic cocktail. I have a feeling Rachel Reeves not knowing where these channel migrants are going to go instead of hotels means they're going to go into the heart of the community, and it's going to make matters worse.
Well, exactly. I'm tempted to say what she said. I couldn't agree with more with everything you just said. Now, in terms of these asylum seeker hotels, this absurd statement by Rachel Reeves in her equally absurd spending review, which is going to cost us all a fortune in tax rises if they bring anything about, because this is the government of announcements. You know, they think an announcement is a fact. Well, it's not. Now, she says that she's going to clear out the asylum seeker hotels by the end of this parliament, in other words, within 4 years, which seems to me to be a very, very feeble ambition in itself. Now, 2 things to bear in mind here. A, they will not achieve this. They will not get the asylum seekers out of all the hotels. Bearing in mind, we've got about 40,000 right now in more than 200 hotels all over the country. Secondly, even if they come halfway close to achieving this ambition, where are they going to put them? Now, Jeremy Kyle asked James Murray, one of Rachel Reeves's deputies, Labour MP, the other day, well, where are you going to put them? 9 times, he asked him. He had no idea. Rachel Reeves, yesterday on Times Radio, literally admitted she had no idea. She literally said, I don't know. When asked, she said, well, that's not my job. That's the Home Office's job. So in other words, she's putting the blame, if you like, or the impetus on her sworn enemy, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. Those two women do not get on. So what Rachel Reeves is saying is we're going to clear out all the hotels. Well, where are you going to put them?
Yeah.
Well, she went like this. Well, it's not my job to accommodate them. That's the Home Office.
I mean, I know hotels cost a lot of money, but I think moving multiple young men into residences, you know, and in privately rented properties down ordinary streets is even worse.
You say privately rented, that would be better than what actually will be the case. They'll be put into social housing, into council houses. They will be put, these illegal foreigners who broke into our country unlawfully will be put into council houses, into social houses, leaping to the top of the queue over British citizens who've been waiting for years for these houses. That is what's going on in this country, and Labour's incoherence on asylum seeker hotels is beyond belief. And you talk about Guido Fawkes reporting that, in fact, right now, the government is busy buying hotels in which to carry on accommodating asylum seekers. What are they going to do? They're going to rename them normal migrant centres. In other words, seriously, in other words, they are going to solve the migrant crisis with wordplay. The Home Office is denying this, so you know for damn sure it's true.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is they're going to be putting these young migrant men, like you said, into the most affordable housing, which is in the poorest communities, where you are going to find the most vulnerable young girls. Yet again, you're going to have men coming from wildly different cultures, from far-flung countries, who have a very different idea of how women should behave, being put right into the exact neighbourhoods where you've got young, persuadable girls with potentially disruptive home lives, and then you know what happens. Grooming gangs, victims. And, you know I might sound like a modern-day Mary Whitehouse, but I say with all sincerity that these men come from countries where women have to dress up as ghosts, and meanwhile in the United Kingdom everything seems like hypersexualization on steroids. And I hate to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but I'm not the only one. I mean, looking at the new album cover of Sabrina Carpenter, barely heard of her, wouldn't recognise her if she was in my local chippy, but there you go. I mean, come on. What is that? I'm sorry, but I don't find this stuff funny. This isn't women's lib. This isn't take care of your own bodies, be the agent of your own destiny. This is allow yourself to be degraded, have no pride in yourself, have no sense of sorority, and promote to young girls that this is fashionable, this is powerful, this is desirable. And do you know what? Want to dress like that? Act like that? Put out publicity like that? What happens is the number of rapes go up, particularly from men from other countries who, quite frankly, would look at that image and judge women like me who have blonde hair in a particular way. I'm fed up with this. I'm sorry, but I actually want to bring back the watershed, the stiff upper lip, regulate what sort of pornography is available online. And when it comes to pictures like that in HMV, the CD would have the parental guidance warning or some sort of censorship on it, turn round to that artist and say, pack it in.
Yeah, this album's called Man's Best Friend. It's just Sabrina Carpenter doing more of what she does, you know, working on that well-known, unfortunately successful principle that sex sells. You know, there's something quite disturbing about the holding of the hair and her completely subordinate position here. But it's not much worse than what she's always done, and she's not the only one who does it. In the world of pop, women debase themselves men debase women in order to sell records. It's as simple as that. I mean, it is pretty disgusting.
But it's got so bad though, Kev, hasn't it? Because, you know, you've been around a lot longer than me. You're as old as Methuselah. But back in the day... older than Methuselah. But back in the day when you were a teenager, raging hormones, what did you listen to? The Doobie Brothers? Or Pan's People was probably about as exciting and edgy as it got. The problem with this stuff is with every single passing year, it gets more and more explicit, it gets more and more degrading, it gets more and more normalised.
Well, let's not go back to my teenage years. It was a lot worse than the Doobie Brothers and Pan's People, I can assure you of that. But yeah, this is the sexualization of the younger generation. And of course, Sabrina Carpenter aims her albums, her records at very young girls. And that is a disturbing principle. To go back to what you were saying, what we were saying about grooming gangs, those riots in Ballymena, in fact, and the migrant crisis, the asylum seeker hotels. What is the real or what makes these problems even worse? It is our body politic, our government, our politicians who are doing exactly what they did when the grooming gang scandal was unfolding. They are turning their backs. They're not addressing this honestly. They're pretending it's not happening because they fear they could be accused of Islamophobia. And they are gaslighting us about what's going on in Ballymena, saying it's just thugs, mindless thugs. It's not. I mean, yes, the thuggery is off the scale. The riots and the violence and the petrol bombs, of course, we condemn, are not to be condoned. But don't say there's no reason for it. The reason for it is that two young migrants, 14-year-old Romanian boys, have been charged with the oral rape of a local girl. There are shades of Southport there where everyone said, pick Keir Starmer, they're just far-right thugs, these aren't protests. Well, you know, the riots, again, were abominable. But the point is, those riots were not without reason. The rioters thought that the perpetrator of that awful crime in the dance hall, that awful slaughter, was a migrant. Turns out they were only slightly wrong. It was the son of a migrant. And our government pretended it was just mindless violence. They've got to address it, just like they pretend. Last night, listen to this, you'll love this. A guy called Darren Jones, who's the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Labour MP, said, I'm going to do this on my show tonight, said on Question Time, the majority of people in these boats are children, babies, and women. That's just a lie. That is just a lie. It's just a lie.
Why do they gaslight us, Kev?
Lying to us.
Why are they doing it? I mean, I tell you why they're doing it. They know they've wrecked our country. They screwed it up so badly in a way that's barely reversible unless you take out some pretty strident policies, the likes of which would have Sir Keir Starmer wetting himself because they'd contravene international law. And so they've got no other answer to the growing problem other than trying to oppress the public itself. It's disgusting. Kev, thank you ever so much. It's always so good catching up with you. Right.